Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm going to make a low sugar apricot jam today, and I'll just show you how I do it. I'm using my Instapot instead of a pot on the stovetop. I like how it's got the measurements on the side of the pot already, but you could also use a pot on the stovetop. I don't use the recipe out of my Ball Blue book because it calls for about half sugar and half fruit, and I like to use less sugar in my jam. So first I want to show you guys what equipment I have ready. I like to get everything ready before I start making jam. I've got a 2-cup measuring cup on a little plate, some measuring spoons, my jars, funnel, some paper towels for wiping the rims, and then I've got my pectin and lemon juice. I'm going to use my Instapot to cook the jam, and then I've got my apricots out of the freezer. I also have some sugar back here, and I'm going to be using sugar today. You could use honey with this recipe if you wanted. And over here I've got my water bath canner. It's got water in it that's starting to heat up just slowly. I have my lids warming in a little water. I have a jar lifter to lift them out when they're hot, and a thick towel to catch the drips. I've got a magnetic lid lifter, which is handy to have, and then I have my rings. I've already put my apricots in my Instapot, and I can see on the side it says I have about 8 cups of fruit. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust my recipe. The recipe I'm using is on the inside label of my pectin, and I've gone ahead and multiplied it by 4. So the first thing that I need to do is get some water and lemon juice in with my apricot. So the recipe calls for 1 1/3 cups of water, and 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. And then I'm not using the pressure setting on my Instapot. I'm just going to turn it on hot pot and get it adjusted to a little higher temperature. And I'm going to give this a quick stir, and then I'll add my pectin. And this recipe calls for 6 tablespoons of pectin. And then we're just going to work that pectin in really well so it doesn't have any clumps of pectin. So while this is coming up to a boil, I'm going to go ahead and measure 2 cups of sugar into my bowl. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop my jars into the oven just on the warm setting so I can get them warmed up so they won't break when we put the hot jam in. Starting to get hot, and because these are wild apricots that we foraged, you can see there's going to be some discoloration on some of the skins. We don't worry about that. It doesn't change the flavor at all. And I've just cut these apricots in half before I put them in the freezer and remove the pits. Our fruit mixture is now at a full boil, so I'm going to go ahead and add our sugar. You want it to be a rolling boil. And then I'm going to stir the sugar in and let it come back up to a boil. And then once it's boiling again, I'll go ahead and let it boil for 1 minute. And then I'll turn it off and fill my jars. I try to always have more jars clean and ready than what I think I need. Alright, our jars are hot, and instead of using a ladle, what I like to do is use the 2-cup measuring cup and my plate, and then I just dip it into the pot of jam, use the plate to catch the drips, and fill my jars from there. It's a lot faster than a ladle. To within 1/4 inch of the top rim of the jar, unless you're using reusable lids. With reusable lids, you want to leave at least a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of headspace. And I'll come back when I'm done filling all of these and just add a little bit extra to the ones that need it. So it looks like we're going to have exactly 6 jars. And I've grabbed my lids, and we'll just go ahead and use the water that is hot from heating the lids to clean the tops of the jars. You can also use vinegar. I just find this to be a little easier. And I like to go over them twice just to make sure that I got everything. Sometimes you'll have some jam that's come up the edge on the inside, like on this jar, and you can just kind of push your finger down on the side of the paper towel to get it clean a little bit farther down. So now we'll put our lids on. I've got my lids nice and hot. And if you don't have a magnetic lid lifter like this one, what you can do is just put your lids in your rings facing up. I'll show you what I mean. And then you can use a fork to get them out of the pot. So if your lid is facing up like this, you can catch the edge of the ring and hold the lid in at the same time while you get it out of the pot. So we'll put that one on. And then for the rest of these, since I do have the magnetic lid lifter, these are all facing down. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my magnet to pick them up and place them on my jars. And then I'll put the rings on when I'm done with that. For the rings, you want to just tighten them until you can move the jar. You don't want to wrench down on them. Just make sure that you can barely move the jar with your fingers. Now I'm going to take my jars to the water bath canner. And you can see I've got the rack for the canner set up on the sides. And then once they're all in, we'll lower them into the water. And then you just pick up the rack and lower it gently down into the water. And you make sure that the jars are covered. And if you have to add some more boiling water, go ahead. You want them to be covered by at least an inch or 2 of water. So now I just wait for my canner to come up to a medium boil. It has to be rolling, but you don't want it to be rolling too fast. And then I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes and let them process. So this is what I mean by a medium boil. It's definitely a rolling boil, but it's not boiling super fast. So now I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes and put the lid back on. My jam is done cooking, processing. And now we're just going to turn the heat off. Lift the rack out. And then we'll put our jars on a cooling towel. The jars are already popping and sealing, and then once they're cool, I'll take off the rings and we'll get them on the shelf. Thanks for joining me, guys. I hope that you will share this video with your friends. Try canning if you haven't before, and we'll catch you on the next video.